Epstein files released. Now, I had a little hesitancy on that word because it's only part. The DOJ releasing a mass dump of heavily redacted documents tonight. And I want to just emphasize that point. By heavily redacted, I mean a lot of pages that look like this and this and this and this and this. And that's all I was going to do to the printer to make the point. Okay, there's a lot more of them. We have teams across CNN going through what was released right now in terms of pages that are not quite as black as these. But the DOJ is admitting in a letter to Congress that the files are not complete, separate from the redactions themselves. And that lack of completion is a big problem because the deadline by law, thanks to Congress forcing Trump's hand on the Epstein files, is today. Now, the key Republican who is behind getting that law passed is Congressman Thomas Massie, and he's posting on social media tonight, quote, "Unfortunately, today's document released by AG Pam Bondi and Deputy AG Todd Blanche grossly fails to comply with both the spirit and the letter of the law that Donald Trump signed just 30 days ago." And Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene said, quote, "Release all the files. It's literally the law." Well, they did not, and they have not yet. The White House saying tonight that it did not receive the Epstein documents that were released by the Department of Justice before the release. So they're saying that they weren't involved with what the DOJ chose to put out today. But the Justice Department did brief the White House on what the documents contain. So what do we actually have tonight on the pages that aren't black as the country starts to shut down and check out for the end of year holiday time? We do have some apparently never before released documents, along with thousands of files that were already public, the redactions, of course, and a whole bunch of pictures of Bill Clinton. Now, among the never before released documents is this photo of Bill Clinton. He's with Epstein. Got a print out of that one as well. And then a photo of a shirtless Clinton in a jacuzzi next to another person whose face is redacted. And a photo of Clinton swimming in a pool with Ghislaine Maxwell and another woman whose face is redacted. Now, it's important to note Clinton has not been accused by law enforcement of any wrongdoing related to Epstein. And a Clinton spokesperson's posting on social media tonight. The White House hasn't been hiding these files for months, only to dump them late on a Friday to protect Bill Clinton. This is about shielding themselves from what comes next or from what they'll try and hide forever. Now, as for Trump himself, he didn't want to talk about the files today. He refused to take questions about anything today when he appeared in public to announce a drug pricing order.
I won't even take questions today because there's no way I can take questions that are anywhere comparable to what you just witnessed.
Epstein files released now. I had a little hesitancy on that word because it's only part. The DOJ released a massive amount of heavily redacted documents tonight, and I want to just emphasize that point. By heavily redacted, I mean a lot of pages that look like this and this and this and this and this. And that's all I was going to do to the printer to make the point, okay? There's a lot more of them. We have teams across CNN going through what was released right now in terms of pages that are not quite as black as these. But the DOJ is admitting in a letter to Congress that the files are not complete, separate from the redactions themselves. And that lack of completion is a big problem because a deadline by law, thanks to Congress forcing Trump's hand on the Epstein files, is today. Now, the key Republican who was behind getting that law passed is Congressman Thomas Massie, and he's posting on social media tonight, quote, "Unfortunately, today's document released by AG Pam Bondi and Deputy AG Todd Blanche grossly fails to comply with both the spirit and the letter of the law that, by the way, I am trying to do my best to gather all the information I can for you and share it with you. Please leave your likes and comments, and I would be grateful if you subscribed. Let's continue." And Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene said, quote, "Release all the files. It's literally the law." Well, they did not, and they have not yet. The White House saying tonight that it did not receive the documents that were released by the Department of Justice before the release. So they're saying that they weren't involved with what the DOJ chose to put out today. But the Justice Department did brief the White House on what the documents contain. So what do we actually have tonight on the pages that aren't black? As the country starts to shut down and check out for the end of year holiday time, we do have some apparently never before released documents, along with thousands of files that were already public. The redactions, of course, and a whole bunch of pictures of Bill Clinton. Now, among the never before released documents is this photo of Bill Clinton. He is with Epstein. Got a printout of that one as well. And then a photo of a shirtless Clinton in a jacuzzi next to another person whose face is redacted. And a photo of Clinton swimming in a pool with Ghislaine Maxwell and another woman whose face is redacted. Now, it's important to note Clinton has not been accused by law enforcement of any wrongdoing related to Epstein. And a Clinton spokesperson posting on social media tonight, the White House hasn't been hiding these files for months, only to dump them late on a Friday to protect Bill Clinton. This is about shielding themselves and what comes next, or from what they'll try and hide forever. Now, as for Trump himself, he didn't want to talk about the files today. He refused to take questions about anything today when he appeared in public to announce a drug pricing order. I won't even take questions today because there's no way I can take questions that are anywhere comparable to what you just witnessed. To be clear, what he's talking about, what we just witnessed, was an announcement from Trump about drug prices. MJ Lee has been going through the files such that we have them. And MJ, we got these photos, we got lots of redactions, lots of things missing. But there are still many, many pages of documents that you are able to look through. What are you learning from them? Yeah, Aaron, as we are going through these thousands and thousands of pages of documents and photos to try to figure out what's new, what's significant, are there people of interest that we should be taking note of? You're right that this is just a partial release of the so-called Epstein files from the DOJ. And what's interesting is that Todd Blanche has essentially informed Congress as of this afternoon that this is happening in this way because of the sheer volume of the documents that we are talking about. And what he essentially communicated is that we needed more time to figure out what information needed to be redacted, including on some information that the agency got recently. Now, one thing that is interesting is that he made clear in this communication to Congress that they made a decision to withhold and redact information that goes beyond what is stated in the law. And just as a reminder, what is stated in the law is that there are 5 categories of information that can be redacted. That includes identifying information about the victims. And just scrolling through these documents, you can tell there are photos where there is a black box over a woman's face that clearly falls under that category. But there are other examples as well, like child sex abuse, anything that shows physical abuse, anything that could hurt an ongoing investigation, something that could hurt national security. But the fact that there are going to be more documents coming out on a rolling basis, and that so many redactions, again, beyond what the law originally stated, is going to have huge political ramifications. And I also think we should talk about the ramifications that that is going to have on the survivors. Because one of the things that the survivors are very much looking for in a big picture way as they go through these files is a sense of a better understanding of why some of these internal decisions over the course of many years were made, including what charges did the department decide to not bring on certain people? What were the decision-making processes that took place over the course of many years that they've never gotten the answer to? So this is going to be sort of a long-running process. And I can tell you with certainty that survivors are not going to be happy about what they are going to see as still the continued lack of transparency here. All right, thank you very much, MJ Lee. And everyone is here with me now. Sevi, obviously you've been covering this for years, and you've pushed every night here for the files to be released. So the day comes, the deadline comes, and we get some stuff, we get some new stuff, we get a lot of stuff we already knew. We got a lot of black pages, and when it comes to men, we get a lot of pictures of Bill Clinton. Yeah, Aaron, apparently there's about 10% of the actual FBI files that were released today, and 5% of that we already had, okay? So we're receiving, for the most part, very little. And it's already been playing politics in the sense of putting out pictures of Bill Clinton. You have to wonder if the DOJ has assigned Jay Clayton at the SDNY to investigate Clinton and other Democratic enemies of President Trump. Why are they showing all these photos of Bill Clinton? You would think that would be part of the investigation, so that doesn't make any sense. We did learn that there's 1,200 victims, more than we initially thought, from the DOJ. The DOJ also said, and this is most important to me and I think the survivors, DOJ communications on investigations into Epstein and his associates, and details of any immunity deals. And so I'm looking for the FD 302 forms, which are the FBI witness reports that Representative Tom Massey says pertains to 20 men that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked these children to. And from the initial look that I made earlier, I don't see any of the 302 forms. However, we may see them in a later document. Stacey, just to state the obvious here, it's just definitionally impossible that it's random what we got today, right? If you're putting out 10%, someone's making a decision on what that 10% is. Yeah, exactly. And it seems like Todd Blanche is the person who announced it. But to Sevi's point, it's so significant that President Trump directed Pam Bondi to investigate Bill Clinton, directly named him in a social media post along with other Democrats, and then she answered the call and appointed a U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York to investigate. And the policy of the Justice Department is you don't release anything related to an ongoing investigation, especially photographs about the subject of an ongoing investigation. And obviously it seems to be a disingenuous subject, being Bill Clinton being ordered to be investigated at this late stage of the game. It certainly did seem targeted at the time and still does. But why would they go against their own policies and then release Bill Clinton's photos? It kind of makes a farce of this entire situation, right? If your whole point, if you were going to hide behind an ongoing investigation, the one that you've got going is into Bill Clinton. And yet we got a whole bunch of pictures of him in a pool and jacuzzi and whatnot. I'll just add one more building block, which is that the legislation, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, actually has an exception that says you do not have to release information if it could jeopardize an ongoing investigation. So it's not just that that's Justice Department policy. The law allows for them to actually withhold that. Yes, exactly. So it's the oddity that that would be the piece that's released, and especially when the victims have named at least 20 men, and then we've only got 1 out of 20, right? And it happens to be that one. Okay, Matt. So, I mean, we all get that. And obviously everybody, if there's anything more to know about Bill Clinton, then people should know it, right? But they should know about everyone else as well. The 2 men behind the bill, the law, Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey, have both said this is a load of baloney. And Massey saying, basically, get out of town. His words are that it grossly fails to comply with the spirit and the letter of the law. Then you had Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has been a regular voice on this issue. But now other issues that Trump does everybody jump on board to this or no? There are now 3 things that are universally approved of in politics: motherhood, apple pie, and releasing all of the Epstein files, which is what makes this so incredibly jarring, alarming, and politically stupid that the Trump administration is acting this way. They are either grossly incompetent, and look at how they're dealing with issues of affordability, or they are on the wrong side of the Epstein conspiracy, the Epstein case, call it whatever you want. They're on the wrong side of it. I cannot for the life of me understand why they are operating this way unless they're trying to hide something on behalf of Donald Trump. Let me add crucial context here, because what we're witnessing is the Trump administration openly violating federal law while playing transparent political games with what little they did release. First, the facts. The law required full release by midnight tonight. The DOJ released approximately 10% of the files. Of that 10%, about half was already public. So we got roughly 5% new material out of what should have been 100%. And what we got was heavily redacted, page after page of solid black, entire sections blacked out beyond what the law allows. Todd Blanche admitted they redacted information beyond the 5 categories specified in the law. Those 5 categories are victim identifying information, child sexual abuse material, anything showing physical abuse, information that could harm ongoing investigations, and national security concerns. Those are legitimate reasons to redact, but Blanche admitted they went beyond that. They're withholding information the law doesn't allow them to withhold. That's a crime. That's the Trump administration openly admitting they're violating federal law. Thomas Massey, the Republican who helped pass this law, said it grossly fails to comply with both the spirit and the letter of the law. Marjorie Taylor Greene said, release all the files. It's literally the law. These are Trump allies. MAGA Republicans, and they're calling out this blatant violation of federal law because there are three universally popular things in politics: motherhood, apple pie, and releasing the Epstein files. Trump is on the wrong side of the third one. Now let's talk about what was released. Lots of Bill Clinton photos. Clinton with Epstein. Clinton shirtless in a jacuzzi. Clinton swimming in a pool with Ghislaine Maxwell. Photos we've never seen before. And Trump has ordered Bondi to investigate Clinton, appointed a U.S. attorney at SDNY specifically to go after Clinton on Epstein connections. That's an ongoing investigation. But DOJ policy says you don't release information about subjects of ongoing investigations. The law itself has an exception, allowing DOJ to withhold information that could jeopardize ongoing investigations. So if they're investigating Clinton, why release all these Clinton photos? It makes no sense unless the investigation is fake, just a pretext to claim they're being thorough while actually targeting a political enemy. And if the investigation is real, they just violated their own rules and potentially jeopardized it by releasing evidence. Either way, it's incompetence or corruption or both. Meanwhile, where are the photos of Trump? We know from photos that accidentally slipped through that Trump appears throughout Epstein's files, at Epstein's home, surrounded by women, with Melania at parties, everywhere in Epstein's world. But search Trump's name on the DOJ website for these files, and nothing comes up. They scrubbed it. They redacted every mention. They hid every photo except the few that accidentally got through their initial incompetent cover-up attempt. Sevi's point about the FD 302 forms is crucial. Those are FBI witness interview reports. Tom Massey says those forms document 20 men that Epstein trafficked victims to. 20 men. We should have those reports. We don't. They're not in this release. Why? Because those reports name powerful men. Men Trump wants to protect, maybe including Trump himself. We learned there are 1,200 victims, more than previously known. That's important. But victims want more than numbers. They want names. They want to know which powerful men abused them or enabled their abuse. They want to know why DOJ didn't charge certain people, what immunity deals were made, what decision-making processes led to letting some perpetrators walk free. And they're not getting answers, just black pages and carefully curated photos of Trump's political enemies while Trump's connections stay hidden. MJ Lee's point about this being a rolling release is concerning because it means DOJ can string this out indefinitely, release 10% now, another 10% in a few weeks, maybe more later, never actually complying with the law requiring full release by midnight tonight. And with each partial release, they control what comes out. They can bury damaging Trump material in later batches after media attention has moved on. They can continue playing political games, releasing Democratic enemies while protecting Republican allies. The White House claiming they didn't see the documents before release is laughable. They got briefed on what the documents contain. They knew what was coming out. They just want deniability when people ask why it's so clearly politically manipulated. Trump refusing to take questions is telling. He announced some drug pricing order, probably meaningless, then said he won't take questions because they couldn't compare to what we just witnessed. What we just witnessed was a boring policy announcement. He just didn't want to answer questions about Epstein files. This is Trump at his weakest, unable to control the narrative, forced by bipartisan law to release files, violating that law anyway, getting called out by his own allies, having photos accidentally slip through showing his Epstein connections, panicking about what else might come out. And it will come out because the estate is still releasing material, because Congress can sue to enforce the law, because Inspector General investigations are being demanded, because victims are pushing for accountability. The cover-up is failing. It's incompetent. It's obvious. And it's creating more damage than just releasing everything would have caused. Because now everyone knows Trump is hiding something. Everyone sees the political manipulation. Everyone understands Bill Clinton photos were released while Trump photos were scrubbed. That's not random. That's not accidental. That's corrupt. And it's not working because we're not letting it work. Subscribe to follow this because more is coming. More files from the estate. More legal pressure for full DOJ compliance. More photos accidentally slipping through. More evidence of Trump's Epstein connections that Bondi tried and failed to hide. The truth is coming out despite their best efforts. And when it does, Trump and everyone who helped cover it up will face accountability.